Hello, my name's Ben.
And my name's Josh.
Welcome back to FPL Graduates and welcome back to another video where in today's video we're going to be going through our transfer targets for Game Week 26. We're very much looking forward to this game week after the chaos of Game Week 25. Let's get straight into it.
Okay then, yes. So finally, not some no doubles to look forward to, I guess you could say. Back to reality for this weekend, and obviously a lot of planning to go ahead to. Obviously, Blank Gameweek 29 is only just round the corner, so we'll be taking a look at players suitable for those who aren't free hitting and some of those who might be free hitting as well. Obviously, two different strategies going into that. Ryan Aït-Nouri is up first. He's probably one that you look towards if you aren't free hitting. Wolves have Southampton in that Game Week 29 fixture, so really nice fixture for them. These three fixtures in general aren't probably the best in terms of defensive capabilities, but we obviously know that Aït-Nouri is good going forwards as well. 8 attacking returns so far this season, a big overperformance on his expected data, but nonetheless, he's got history of being a really good attacking defender for Wolves. What's your thoughts on him, Ben? At 4.7, it's quite a nice, cheap budget option, right?
Yeah, he's a nice budget option. I mean, for the entry point this week, it's not ideal at all, Bournemouth away. But, going forward from 27 onwards, I think he's very much a viable option. Of course, very attacking, playing in a Wolves team that looks to be a bit more rejuvenated and playing a bit better under Vitor Pereira. So, yeah, I really sort of don't mind the pick at all. Heat maps look really good as well with Aït-Nouri. They always seem to be very attacking, very high up the pitch and very directly involved in attacking contributions, which is really good. Of course, sort of maybe not as many attacking returns this year as last year, but he is definitely one that is on my radar, that's for sure. Okay, so next up is a little bit of a left field pick. It's Patrick Dorgu of Manchester United. Of course, Josh had to get in someone from Manchester United, and Dorgu is the one we've gone for. 4.5 million. And this week is a decent entry point for the next two game weeks for Manchester United. But I'll just sort of err on sort of the side of caution with this one, just based on the consistency of Manchester United, the newness of Dorgu into that Manchester United team, and the fact, like Man United aren't that great at the moment. So, yeah, it's one to keep an eye on in terms of like how the statistics look over, a longer period of time, because the data set that we got is really minimal. We've got really nothing to go off with him. So, yeah, one to sort of bear in mind, keep an eye on. If you want to go against the grain, then the next two fixtures are pretty decent from a defensive standpoint. But yeah, Josh, what's your thought as a United fan?
Yeah, I think it's one of those sort of differential picks that you can look at. I think in general, defenders over the next 4 weeks, if you're looking for someone who plays in 29, Man United, from a defensive point of view, probably have some of the better fixtures with Everton away, Ipswich at home. And then they face Leicester in the Game Week 29 blank. So a decent set of fixtures there. He looks really attacking against Spurs. Probably didn't find the ball as much as probably a lot of fans probably wanted him to. But yeah, I thought he looked threatening in terms of his positioning as well. It's always going to be quite high up the pitch due to that system that United play. So yeah, high upside on him. Obviously, limited data set, as Ben mentions, don't get me wrong. United, though, defensively is actually a stronger part of their game than going forwards. They've got 7 clean sheets so far this season. That's ranked 4th in the Premier League overall. So defensively, they have been decent this season. And against these attacks where they're not scoring too many goals, I think there could be some points on offer. Okay, then, so moving on to the midfielders, then we're going to start it off with Christopher Nkunku. He's at 5.7 million, obviously starting for Chelsea at the moment up top. Villa away this week is probably not the best entry point in the world, although Villa are conceding quite a lot of goals at the moment. They've only had 3 clean sheets all season, so it's not a defence that you need to be really scared of, I'd say. It's definitely goals leaking in there, left, right and centre. They obviously then have Southampton at home and Leicester at home, obviously 2 of the best fixtures you can choose. Obviously not blanking as well in Game Week 29, albeit against Arsenal in that game week. He's one of those that I think if you've got that sort of spare midfielder spot and you want to take a punt on someone who isn't going to blank, I think he could be up there. I know Chelsea haven't played too well recently, but if they do click it into gear, you'd imagine that Nkunku is going to be in and amongst the returns, just sheer due to his positioning. What's your thoughts on him, Ben?
Yeah, it's a similar thought process in terms of the team that Nkunku's playing for that I had on Manchester United. It's a little bit on the consistency side of things with Nkunku. I'd say it's a high risk transfer if you're going to bring him in because of the injury record that we've seen whilst he's been at Chelsea, and of course the limited amount of minutes and data set that we've seen in terms of it. But if you are looking to take that risky pick and take that chance because he's low owned, then I do think there are gains to be made here because the fixtures are so good going forward for Chelsea. So yeah, I don't mind it. It's not my favourite pick in the world, but it's definitely a differential choice that I know a few managers will sort of look at and go, actually, there's some decent value there. Okay, so next up we've got Ethan Nwaneri from Arsenal. I'll get used to saying his name over time because I'm sure he's going to be a fantastic Premier League player in future years to come. At 4.5 million, he is very much a decent option up until game week 29 and through that blank. After that point, I will say he will become a little bit and definitely a rotation risk with Bukayo Saka on his way back a little bit earlier than expected. Again, not too much of a data set to go on, but if you are strapped for cash, then he is a very good option to go for if you're looking at investing into the Arsenal attack. Josh, what's the thoughts?
Yeah, I think as an eighth attacker, he's ideal. Obviously, he's super cheap. Can't get much cheaper than him, which is great. I doubt you'll have or want to have free Arsenal in the coming future, just because there's no doubles coming. They aren't blanking, but equally their fixtures in the blank isn't great. So, yeah, for me, I think he's a good option. I don't think he's the best midfield option for Arsenal, though. Just looking and judging at Mikel Merino. Obviously, Marino is off the back of a lovely performance off the bench versus Leicester. We saw him playing up front, basically, in that sort of Kai Havertz role, which a few people thought that he might be able to play, obviously, with his sort of box crashing tendencies that we see with Kai Havertz, more specifically last season, I guess. But it's an interesting one because if he does get that start up top at £6 million, got an OOP midfielder playing up top for Arsenal, who they tend to create quite a few chances going forwards. What's your thoughts on him, Ben? Obviously, this is going to be a massive punt, but do you reckon he's going to score some goals?
Potentially there, and I mean it's a big if. I think is what you've got to sort of emphasise here at 6 million. Managers will go for him because they see the points last week and will points chase. I think at this moment in time, I'd probably just steer a little bit clear of it, just because I'm not the biggest fan of the potential there. Because there's every chance that 1 week he could play up top, next week he could play midfield, the week after he's on the bench. Like he's going to get rotated in and out of that Arsenal team, regardless of where he's playing. So one to bear in mind. And yeah, not the biggest fan, but the stats are sort of not too bad at all considering. So next up, we've got Bryan Mbeumo from Brentford, and the entry point is actually really good for him this week, as well as playing in 29, which is fantastic. Overperforming on the data, as we've seen throughout the season, but the big chance involvement is there. Very much dependent on system and how Brentford play and the personnel that is in the team is on the effectiveness in Mbeumo. But regardless, you have to bear in mind that he's also talismanic and on those penalties as well. So definitely a good pick to look to go towards because the minutes are most definitely secure. So you're not going to be taking any risks with minutes when you're going into that blank game week 29. Josh, what's your thoughts and are there any downsides?
I think he's obviously a solid pick. A lot of managers have him already. I know he's quite high EO, especially at my rank. One thing to note as well, against newly promoted sides so far this season, he's had 4 appearances and scored 50 points. So some real big double-digit hauls, as we can remember, against Southampton in particular. He did blank versus Leicester in the home fixture earlier this season, but I feel like this is one of those fixtures where he could go nuclear and we could see those like 19 points. A lot of people maybe even looking at him for captaincy this week if they wanted to go against Mo Salah. I think for me, outside of Mo Salah, he's probably my favourite pick at the moment, just sheerly down to the fixture. But like you mentioned, Ben, his returns can be really impacted by how Brentford set up. And until you see them kick off, it's very hard to predict how they will set up in these sort of smaller fixtures. So, yeah, he's a good pick, but also I feel like you could save a good little bit of money. And that is with Kevin Schade. He's priced at 5.1 million, and he did score the only goal in their 1-0 win over West Ham last game week. So far this season, though, he's had 11 attacking returns, so nearly matching the output of Bryan Mbeumo. I think that's 6 or 8 less big chance involvements for him as well. Obviously, the same fixtures. His minutes are pretty secure. I wouldn't say they're as secure as in Bumo's, but they're not too bad considering the price of the asset that you're obtaining. See, a lot of people might be wanting to look to move off of Amad Diallo, maybe even Morgan Rogers now that the double has passed. What's your thoughts on Kevin Schade, Ben?
Yeah, don't mind him at all as a pick in the upcoming game weeks. Of course, there's slight minutes risk with him, which again, like when you're looking at going and buying players for Blank Game Week 29, you want the absolute 100% security in terms of minutes. So that would be the only thing that I'd put a question mark over. But in terms of like the sort of output that he's getting involved in, 18 big chance involvement in 1,200 minutes is not too bad at all. Okay, so next up, we've got a cut price forward option in Jamie Vardy. The next two fixtures are pretty decent from an attacking perspective, although one thing to note about Leicester, again, and it's a similar theme for this video, is the consistency of attack for them. They have been relatively inconsistent this season. And yeah, I think there's an element of risk just associated with that. But in terms of the stats, 7 goals, 4 assists, he's performing sort of right to what we expect in terms of the statistics, and is involved in a decent amount of big chances as well. I don't mind him as a pick. It's probably more favourable ones for me, especially with a lot of managers having the spare cash around from the assistant manager chip being used when they're looking to make sort of further transfers. So when you get that money, I'd maybe look at sort of other priced options, maybe just above Vardy. But if you are strapped for cash, it's certainly an option.
Yeah, definitely agree. I think it's one of those ones that if you're stranded for cash, you might want to move to him, but ideally you're wanting to upgrade those forward spots just because the fixtures are better for other forwards that we'll talk about in a moment, especially headed into game week 29. Okay, then, so rounding off our hat trick of Brentford, it is Yoane Wissa. Unlucky at the weekend not to get any returns for owners. 2 offside goals against West Ham, which obviously don't really show up in the stats because they don't go down as shots or big chances, etc. But really lively. Huge big chance involvement so far this season with 23 big chances, 13 attacking returns. He's got really good goal threat. And like we sort of mentioned, and Boomer's obviously reaching nearly that £8 million price tag now. If you're looking to cut some money or you need some money from elsewhere, Yoane Wissa is a nice option. He's much better than Jamie Vardy, in my opinion. I know he's only nearly, a million more, but you're going to get a lot more out for your money out of him, I think. What's your thoughts on him, Ben?
Yeah, very much in agreement with you. I think he is a fantastic option for FPL managers to go for, and the open play XG is just phenomenal, and the stats suggest that he is probably the best option to go for from Brentford. So yeah, really like him as a pick. Don't think you can go too wrong with it. Okay, so finally we've got Matheus Cunha from Wolves. Seems to be scoring a lot of goals at the moment from not a lot of XG, which is, something sort of to behold. And he is a good finisher. Whether that levels out over the next few weeks, we'll have to just wait and see. Again, like we said with the other Wolves asset, the entry point isn't the greatest, but that Blank Game Week 29 fixture doesn't look too bad for him either. They've got Everton coming up as well. So I do not mind him at all. I'd maybe be a little bit wary of the stats because, the likes of Wissa or Chris Wood are providing statistics that are a little bit more in line to what we expect. But nevertheless, I do think he is a very good asset and good value at 6.8 million. Josh, what's your thoughts on Cunha?
Yeah, I really like him, to be honest. Obviously, he's one of those players that can get something out of nothing. We saw that at the weekend against Liverpool. Real nothing chance. It's not going to rack up the XG, but it's a clinical finish. And that's what he's been doing all season, really. I haven't owned him all season, which was to my detriment earlier in the season when he was bagging goals week after week. But I think, yeah, even in those fixtures against Bournemouth away, Fulham at home, they're not crystal clear defences. I think Wolves can still pose a threat to those defences, especially. And then also, obviously, after that Blank Gameweek fixture with Southampton, Wolves go on a really nice run of games up until Game Week 34, 35. So he's a player that you could, buy in now, say if you need a forward. You won't probably have to worry about him for a sustained period of time because the fixtures there are really good. So yeah, for me at the moment, if I was looking at any sort of forward choice for the long term, I think I'd be looking at Matheus Cunha. Okay, then. So that wraps up our Game Week 26 transfer targets. Some interesting players to look at and look towards that Game Week 29 blank game week. If you're unsure on the teams that are blanking, make sure you check out our strategy video that will be at the top of the description.
Yeah, absolutely. And as always, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe to the FPL Graduates. I've been Ben,
I've been Josh.
and we'll see you guys
next time. Have a good game week, everyone.
So you may rise, but you'll never make me wanna stick around.